Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name's Yasmin, but my friends all call me Yassi, and you guys can too. Today we are going through my May reading wrap up, and I'm ashamed of myself. And I know that's really bad because, like, reading's not a competition or anything, but look, we've had our ups and our downs, and this month had one up and one very big down, okay? So without further ado, let's get right into it. So my current read as of the 31st of May is Betting on You by Lynn Painter. I'm going to be honest, I haven't started it yet, but I will start it later on today, definitely. So yeah, that's what I'm starting June off of. So the first book that I read this month was Games Untold by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is like, not really a spin-off, but it's a collection of novellas from the Inheritance Games trilogy. I rated this book 4.25 stars. So I actually really enjoyed it. Almost all of the novellas were like absolutely amazing. The only one that I didn't like in this was the novella That Night in Prague, which is about Avery and Jameson, and I don't know, it was just really boring, I think. But yeah, I really loved all the novellas because they just made the characters in the Inheritance Games world feel more real to me without the plot points of like all the riddles and puzzles and games and stuff like that. Like a lot of these novellas were just them, the Hawthorns and the Grahams just having fun and having a good time and, being with each other and having fun together. One of my favorite novellas that I will forever always think about these characters is Hannah and Toby's story. Is actually in this book, and it is 190 pages of just heartache. I'm invested in this world. I'm invested in everybody in this world, and I love like the universe so much and all the characters. But yeah, all in all, I actually really like this one. I don't know, I thought a lot of people on like BookTok and stuff have had mixed opinions on this, but I definitely think some of the novellas were better than others. But yeah, another one of my favorites was Secret Santa. If you read it, you know, but like, I don't know, it's so fun. Like, I love any bit in a book where like nothing is going on and the characters are literally just all together and they're just all being themselves and spending time with each other, and that just makes them feel so much more real. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I love this book, because there was so much of just that togetherness of the characters. The next book that I read this month was The Selection by Kiera Cass, and think of The Bachelor in like a world with very serious social classes and like a really sweet prince, because that's basically what this is. I actually really liked this book. It was really fun. I read it in like 2 or 3 days, I think. It was really quick for me. So basically the prince needs to find a wife, and so he holds a competition for all the girls in the kingdom to, compete for him. And I don't know, I found this premise like absolutely hilarious, because what do you mean you have a competition to find a wife? He's a prince, you think he would just find one. But no, there's actually like reasons behind it. And yeah, I really love this book. I loved the sisterhood between all the girls in the competition and the little political aspects all throughout. Although this is a dystopian book, I would definitely think it more a romance than a dystopian. I would think it like a predominantly romance book in a dystopian world, if that makes sense. So don't go into this thinking it's like extremely political, because I mean there is, but I just don't think it's like the main point of the book. So yeah, a romance in a dystopian world. Sounds about right. Oh, and I rated this book 4 stars. I don't know if I said that. The next book I read was the second book in the Selection series, and that is The Elite. I rated this book 3 stars. Obviously, I don't want to spoil it, but America, our main character, she was just so annoying in this book. Like, ugh. Okay, so in this series, like, the love triangle is a very big part of it, and I was just telling her, like, go, hurry up already. Can you please, like, hurry up and choose? Because I swear, okay, I just don't think I'm made for love triangles. I think that's what this is. Because every love triangle where, like, the main character goes back and forth between the two people, it gets on my nerves. And so, I just think I'm not made for them, honestly. Like, I just don't think they're my favorite thing. But yeah, that's mostly why I gave this book a 3 stars. But yeah, this book was, like, so much more focused on the love triangle, which, I mean, fair enough, because obviously she has to choose at some point. But it just annoyed me. So 3 stars. It was still really good. Don't get me wrong. This series is genuinely so addicting. Like, they go by so quick. I can't click. kidding, I'm sorry. I wish I could. But they go by so quick. And even though she's really annoying, it's still really good, so you still read it. And because the prince is really, really sweet. I love Maxon. Hey guys, Team Maxon or Aspen, if you guys have read this, because there's a right answer and there's a wrong answer. So, okay, and the next book I read is the final book in the selection series, and that is The One. I read this book 4.25 stars. It was actually pretty good. Like, I actually enjoyed it. Of course I enjoyed it if I read it 4.25 stars. What am I saying? I swear sometimes I don't make sense to myself. Now, the actual process of the selection does take place over all 3 of these books. So this is like the conclusion to the selection, you know, who will the prince choose? And this one actually does get a whole lot more political than the first 2, which I kind of enjoyed, you know, just like a little veer off the romance, which was, I personally think, predominantly the main plot. But yeah, this series was like so ridiculously addicting. I finished the whole series in 5 days. All 3 books. Yeah, I really, really like this series. I would totally recommend. It's a really, really good, quick, classic YA dystopian romance book. Okay, so now that we got through those books, that's not all I read this month, but that was the up of the month, okay? I finished those 4 books in 10 days, okay? So that was actually really, really good. That was actually really good for me. The next book that I'm going to show you took me a grand total of 20 days for the 1 book. Okay, so I just want you guys to take that into consideration. 4 books in 10 days and 1 book in 20.
I have this thing where I don't like reading more than 1 book at once.
I'm ashamed. Like, why did I do that to myself? The book that took me a grand total of 20 days is Emma by Jane Austen. Now, did I enjoy this book? Yeah, I actually did. Like, it was actually a really, really good book. Did I find it boring? Yes. This is the first classic that I've actually read and understood. Like, I read classics before, but when I tell you the words were going in one ear and then out the other. Wait, no, one eye? And out the other, I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say. They just went straight through my head. But yeah, like, I actually understood what was happening and there wasn't a whole lot happening. Basically, Emma follows, obviously, our main character, Emma Woodhouse, who is a bored, rich young lady in the 19th century who goes around her town matchmaking people. But the meddling she does in other people's lives has consequences on herself. And basically, this book is a satire of what society was like in the 1800s. And I actually think Jane Austen does it really, really well. Now, obviously, I am no literary genius to, like, expertly analyze Austen's work, but I can appreciate that this is, in fact, a really, really good book, just not something that piques my interest or, you know, holds my attention very much. Now, do I regret reading this book? No. Again, no. There were 3 pages talking about tomatoes. Tomatoes. Okay, all jokes aside, this was actually a really, really good book, and I think it was actually pulled off very, very well. Okay, if you enjoy classics, I am sure you would have already read this, but if you genuinely, like, enjoy classics and analysing books, I would totally recommend this one to you, because there is actually lots of potential in it. To be fair though, there are lots of quotes in this that I actually really, really love, that, like, resonated with me, and I think they're genuinely just some literary genius. It was just really, really boring. I don't think I'm at fault for that. Oh, but this is actually the first book that I've ever annotated. I don't know if I flip through, you can see them. Hopefully you can. No, you cannot. I don't know, like, I did some annotating and it was actually very fun. And look, some analysing, guys, and, like, my thoughts. Wow, look at Yazzie being, you know, an analyzer. Okay, but don't expect me to do this in any other books. Okay, like, that's not happening. Look, I happily read for my own entertainment, and I am perfectly fine with that because, you know, that's what makes me happy. Found it! Ha 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 ha, nobody likes Mrs. Elton. Because Mrs. Elton really, really sucks. But all in all, it was a really good book, but I would not recommend it to someone who predominantly likes mystery and fantasy. No way. This is torture for someone like that. But yeah, if you do want to read a classic that is, like, somewhat interesting, you know, this was interesting. No, this actually was interesting. It just was boring, and I see why that doesn't make sense. But just take my word for it, okay? Anyways, that is all that I read this month. To do a little recap, first I read Games Untold, then Selection, The Elite, The One, and then finally Emma. Hopefully next month will be a little bit more fun. Comment what your favourite book of the month was, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!